India's position is 178, so no improvement compared with that last year. So I think this is quite important, especially when investors try to do big projects, complicated projects, or infrastructure. Contract is quite important. If contract is not enforceable, no serious investment is not coming. So this is very important. Of course, this is not easy job because the executive branch have to reform the judicial branch, and the judicial branch has huge independence. Independence is good things, but some work is required, I feel. And also increasing bankability, I think I might say appropriate law played by government is important. And I'm not saying that the government should take every risk. A government is going to provide every subsidy. This is not what I'm trying to say. Appropriate support is required. As Yoshino Sensei, Professor Yoshino mentioned, if government side takes all risk, and if private sector does not take any risk, this is not good things, because private sector does not carefully review project, no due diligence, just putting money, and if anything bad happens, government, if something good happens, they can benefit. So this is not good structure. So appropriate that sharing of risk, this is very important. But some support is, legitimate, especially on the infrastructure, because, as Yoshino mentioned, there is that indirect benefit for society. So by definition, I think, in case of infrastructure, social return is higher than private return. So therefore, without any help or support, including that risk-taking or that subsidy, supply of infrastructure can be lower than appropriate level. So some support is legitimate, but how to support, this should be considered very carefully. And also, I just touch upon that JBIC. We are providing long-term finance, and we are trying to take more risk. For example, usually we require the government guarantee, but now we are not requiring government guarantee. And right now, we are trying to enter that sub-sovereign risk, taking sub-sovereign risk. I mean that taking that state risk. So we want to enter such world more and more. And also, we are sometimes discuss with government, like Ministry or Ministry of Finance, how to improve that PPP regulation or some specific sector, including that solar. So we will not do these, our work. By doing this, we can increase our money, and we always provide loan together with Japanese private banks. So this will increase Japanese private banks' money, and also this will contribute to reform of Indian regulatory framework. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oya-san. I think for me the most important takeaway of what you said was the emphasis on bankable projects. That means something which is financially and otherwise viable in a long-term sense. And here you referred to factor markets: land, labor, capital, and technology, the four factors which contribute to any project, and definitely in terms of long-term infrastructure projects. Now, land and labor squarely fall within the purview of our central government or state governments. Capital and technology is something that Japan, whether it is JBIC or a private sector bank, could facilitate or provide. But you're absolutely right when you use the term competitive federalism. I've used it in an article of mine to refer to the fact that certain state governments are within the NDA family in terms of their being in power, and land, for instance, and for that matter labor, these are concurrent subjects under our constitution, and we need to do more to be able to provide the comfort that an institution like JBIC may require. Now, with those words, may I now request Mr. Kakita-san to make his presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. From my speech are focused on commercial bankers' point of view, how we're contributing to the foreign investment from Japan to India. My speech are three parts. One is a brief introduction of our bank, Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, or SMBC. And second part is our current role and function of this foreign investment from Japan to India. And last part is our concern issues, which would improve more investment from Japan to India. That three parts, I will make it. First one is a brief introduction. We are SMBC is a merger of Sumitomo Bank and Mitsui Bank, Sakura Bank. And our presence in India is almost 100 years, but recently we have reopened our office in Delhi 3 years ago. And before that, we have started investment in India by ourselves to Kotak Mahindra Bank. And we are working with Kotak Mahindra Bank mainly two parts. One is M&A service. I mean, from Japanese companies come to India to acquire or alliance with Indian companies. That we advise, assist these activities. And other one is infrastructure fund we are setting up. And also JIBC, Oya-san is one of the fund investor to this fund to start a mostly small renewable project in India. And also we are unique feature the advisory role to the infrastructure projects such as DMIC project that we have been working for a couple of transaction sites. And commercial banking side, our service to help Japanese investment in India is mainly two parts. First part is the initial investment in India, and second one is the ongoing activities in India operation of Japanese companies. Initial support of our bank is first is transfer of the capital injection from Japan to India, or ECB financing to set up the plant construction in India, as well as authorized dealer functions, and also hedging derivative activities to hedge the customers' foreign exchange or interest rate risk hedging, and some introduction of legal or tax advisors to these Japanese companies, as well as the share of the Indian domestic various regulations. And lastly, as I said before, to introduce some Indian companies to Japanese company to make M&A activities or equity alliance business partner. That's the initial support of our bank. And also ongoing support. We are providing a working capital or short-term funding to support the customers' operations, transaction banking to the fund transfer to domestic and cross borders, and trade finance service to help their business in India, and also receiving a deposit for their excess money. These are our major activities in India operation. And since last 2 years and a half, almost 3 years, our branch activities, we feel quite significant or substantial demand from our Japanese customer in India. That was more than our originally expected size. So we feel quite a lot of Japanese companies willing to expand business or coming into India. That's we feel, and we would like to help support these activities. And then last part of my speech is how we can improve, expand this. There's a couple of regulation, restrictions, guidelines, which our point of view, if we relax or become more flexible, these regulations, then I feel we are lots of more service to Japanese customer in India, and accordingly, Japanese investment will increase quite a lot. That's I feel. Some of them are, I think, introduced by our today's morning session by President of Japan Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Konishi. But I will repeat some financing part of them. First one is a priority sector lending obligation that require 30 to 40% of our loan assets must be lent to the so-called priority sector lending. We are fully aware of the importance of priority sector to improve or develop further for Indian economy point of view. We are very much fully aware of this mission. However, the direct lending to this sector is very much challenging to Japanese bank, or not only Japanese bank, foreign banks as a whole. Or not only foreign banks, Indian banks also struggling these obligations. That's we are aware. So there's a lot of way to support this priority sector, but this will hesitate us to increase loan asset in this country. That's a big issue. If we don't have this regulation or relax this regulation, then we can do more lending to these Japanese customers, which again expand more Japanese investment. Next one is our branch network expansion in India. India is a very huge country, and our Japanese customer also widely spread across the country. So we need to have a certain number of branch network. But again, this India government regulation restricted the branch expansion. That's also need to review. If we do more flexible branch networks, then again we believe more we can do more support, and as a result, more investment come from Japan. And linked to this branch, there are also certain restriction regulation for the number of Japanese staff in our in India. I think last IT session, there are a couple of language or culture issue between India and Japan. That is right. Japan also need to be more globalized. That's I feel to some extent. But right now, India and Japan is a very big culture gap or language barrier. And the Japanese staff in our bank will help this barrier to support Japanese business in India. That's also we are feeling on this. Next point is ECB financing. ECB financing also there are certain number of regulation restriction in terms of industry, in terms of purposeful funds, tenor, repayment structure. For that also, if it become more flexible, then flow from Japan to India would increase. There cross-border investment would require cross-border funding, more flexible manner. And another area is money market or interbank market in India. There's still weak or small interbank market, which will be some issue of our liquidity situation. After Lehman crisis, banking sector faced a lot of issue on the fund liquidity issue, and we have to put a lot of deposit of funds reserve in order to protect when financial crisis coming again. So expand increase of interbank market also will help the fund liquidity situation of each bank. That as a result, we are more flexibly lending to Japanese company in India. And last one is Professor Yoshino or Mr. Oya mentioned infrastructure finance. To improve the infrastructure in India, definitely increase investment from Japan to India. And Japanese bank, Mr. Hisai here also, he's also professional finance banker, and JBIC, we are very much experienced on infrastructure finance over the world. We are lots of Southeast Asia or Middle East or Latin America. These are emergency markets. We are quite a lot of infrastructure finance. So that's experience, expert, if we can bring into India, then I think we have lots of area for us to contribute to finance to infrastructure market, and then that will help also investment from Japan to India. That's the end of my speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kakita-san, country head for Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation. In terms of what I learned from your presentation, you referred to some of the issues which RBI and Government of India prescribe for foreign banks, which is in terms of branch network expansion. There are certain limitations. There are certain issues with regard to priority lending. And you referred to the fact that the money markets in India are relatively shallow and small, all of which is correct. I would just add that one needs to be careful in terms of past experience around the globe and also in India, how to distinguish between short-term liquidity problems and terminal solvency issues for the banking sector. In this connection, I suppose you are watching what we are trying to do with regard to the bankruptcy law, because SARFAESI has not had the impact that it was expected to have. SARFAESI, by the way, incidentally, for people who are not familiar with the short acronym for this particular act, which was put together in 2002, was supposed to make creditors that much safer in terms of what they have lent. But as we have found with regard to the medium to long-term lending in the last 5 to 7 years, given the situation with regard to stressed assets and how difficult it is for even the largest commercial bank in India, called the State Bank of India, to actually get debtors to make good on loans made to them, I can understand why foreign banks will watch all this with a lot of care. I will now request Mr. Hisai-san to make his presentation. He's the Regional Executive for India for Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Bhagwati. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. My name is Taiju Hisai, Regional Executive for India of Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi. I would be the last speaker of the day, so bear with me for another 10 plus minutes. Before I talk about my subject, I just wanted to share a story. I'm based in Mumbai, so I had to fly out this morning, taking the 6 o'clock flight. It was a long day. I had to get up 4 o'clock. I thought I was the most committed person in this room today. But that was not correct. I realized that Yoshino-san took a flight from Japan, Seoul, via Singapore. Realizing his flight from Seoul to Singapore, 2 hours delay, he requested Singapore Airline to wait for him for 2 hours in Singapore, and he did it. So he is the most committed person in this room. Okay, so I understand the objective of this session is to see how to further increase FDIs from Japan to India. For the interest of time, I will focus on one successful case which we have seen in Thailand for the last decades. Our bank has been in India for more than 60 years and has experienced both tough times and good times. Both throughout these times, we have been supporting Japanese corporates in investing in India. We, BTMU, as a Japanese flagship bank, would like to seek how we can further increase Japanese investment in India, collaborating with all the concerned parties, which we have done in Thailand until today. Let me start with slide 3. As you see in the left graph 1, the number of Japanese corporates has been increasing steadily, and it was more than 1,200 as of last year. This number actually is relatively small comparing to that in other Asian countries. On the other hand, the two right-hand side charts show how Japanese corporates are interested and attracted by India. Actually, this is exactly Oya-san was talking about. India was ranked number 1 as a promising country for both mid-term and long-term. Here is a big question mark. Why is the number of Japanese corporates has been smaller in India than in other Asian countries, despite of the fact that everyone thinks now India is a promising country? Let's find out the reasons why. The Japanese companies are increasing their investment toward Asian countries. About 40% of overseas investment was bound for Asia in 2013. Let's look at graph 2, up left. Excluding China, among Asian countries, top countries are Thailand and Singapore. Comparatively, India is not in a bad position, but is still behind other major Asian countries. Graph 3, up right, shows the breakdown of the number of Japanese corporates in India by sector. Red, amber, and yellow portions, about 60%, is in the manufacturing sectors. Out of them, electronics and metal, 4 and 2-wheelers are the primary sectors. Let's look at the investment efficiency by return on investment of Japanese corporates by country in graph 4, lower left. I took it from the stats from Bank of Japan. As you see there, Thailand marks the highest return on investment of 14.4%. But India, surprisingly, is only 0.2% in 2013. I looked at the last 5 years and took an average, but still India average was 2%. And other Asian countries, for those 4 countries, it's between 5 to 15%. So the background of this is that Indian subsidiaries of Japanese corporates are struggling to make profit due to various reasons, such as unexpected marketing difficulties and associated expenses, high interest rate, and INR depreciation. Graph 5, lower right, shows this aspect in comparison with other major Asian countries. Many Indian subsidiaries of Japanese corporates are short of cash for both working capital and capex. However, INR bank loan interest rate is high, and ECB loan is still not necessarily user-friendly. This is what Kakita-san was talking about as well. Hence, parent companies continue to inject tech capital, which results in no dividend and repatriation, further resulting in lower return on investment. This slide shows a snapshot of major Asian countries, including India. in terms of population, nominal GDP, GDP per capita, real GDP growth rate, and ease of doing business ranking. As it shows, India has the biggest number in population, nominal GDP, and real GDP growth rate among those 5 countries, but is the worst in the GDP per capita and, more importantly, ease of doing business ranking. Although it's shown as 142, it improves 130, but still the worst in this chart. Among those 5 countries, India and Indonesia on the left-hand side are promoting primarily manufacturing sectors. On the other hand, Singapore and Malaysia on the right-hand side are promoting primarily regional headquarter and hub businesses. Thailand, in the middle, has been focusing on manufacturing sector, but recently started promoting regional headquarter in manufacturing sector. In fact, Japanese auto parts companies sometimes invest from Thailand to India. From this slide, let's look at business in Thailand and what we can learn from there. Graph 6, upper left, Thai economy has been stably expanding except for Asian currency crisis in 1997. Graph 7, upper right, FDI inwards into Thailand was affected by various incidents and had up and down, but it has also been on an increasing trend. But if you look at graph 8 in the lower part of this slide, which is trend of sector-wise FDI into Thailand, you will notice an interesting trend. Yes, earlier, FDI in the manufacturing sector, which is shown as a blue line, was bigger than that in the non-manufacturing sector, which was shown as yellow or amber. However, the gap between those 2 sectors is recently getting narrow. On this slide, I'd like to touch upon the reasons why Japanese investors were attracted by Thailand. First, infrastructure. Thailand has over 60 industrial parks across the country and stable electric and water supply. The industrial parks are usually within 3.5 hours from Bangkok, seaport and airport, and are accessible through developed highway network. Reason second, tax incentive. As seen in the right map, corporate tax can be exempted for maximum 8 years by BOI, Board of Investment, approval, depending on the locations like Zone 1, 2, 3. In this slide, Zone 1, there is no incentive. Zone 2, tax exemption for 3 years. Zone 3 for maximum 8 years. Moreover, custom duty for importing machinery and exporting material can be exempted. Thailand has grown in the past decades by providing such infrastructure and tax incentive to foreign investors. For manufacturing companies, local supply chain is essential to reduce costs and maintain quality of products. Upper graph 9, local procurement ratio in India on the right-hand side is still behind Thailand on the left-hand side due to less developed supply chain. A large supply chain in Thailand results in high investment efficiency. As you see in the lower part of this page, even only in the auto industry, there are 2,350 companies and 525,000 employees, including local companies. As you see on this slide, Sorry for the busy one. Since the early 1960s, when the first development plan was implemented, Thai government has supported private enterprises, limited government involvement in the economy to the key utility and infrastructure sectors, and maintained an incentive structure to encourage the private sector. I just wanted to share the importance of liaison office in Japan. Thailand Board of Investment was established in 1977 and set up Tokyo office as a liaison office in 1979 to promote investment from Japan by holding seminars in Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya periodically. Moreover, BOI also set up Osaka office to expand their coverage by sending expatriates from Thailand to respond to various inquiries from potential Japanese investors on site in a timely manner and more effectively. And competitors such as EDB of Singapore and MIDA of Malaysia also set up their liaison offices in Japan to promote investment from Japan, placing their expats there.